That night, if I had ignored the laughter coming from the basement, maybe I would still sleep peacefully today. My name is Emma Carter. I'm 24 years old, a college student from Pennsylvania, and I used to work part-time as a babysitter. Used to, because after what happened inside that house, I never babysat again. It started on a freezing November night in a small town called Ashwood, Pennsylvania. Rain hammered the roads, the streets were empty, and thick fog covered the forest surrounding the town. At around 7 p.m., I got a last-minute babysitting request from a wealthy couple who lived outside town. The pay was huge for just one night. That should have been my first warning. The address led me deep into the woods, where I finally saw the house. It was enormous, an old Victorian mansion standing alone in the darkness. The wooden walls looked rotten, the upstairs windows were cracked, and an old rusted swing moved slowly in the wind, even though there was no breeze. I parked my car and whispered to myself, "Relax, Emma, it's just one night." I rang the doorbell. A few seconds later, the door creaked open. A pale woman stood there. She looked around 40, with tired eyes and skin so white she almost looked sick. "You must be Emma," she said softly. "Yeah, come in." The moment I stepped inside, I felt it. The house was freezing, not normal cold, the kind of cold that crawls under your skin. The walls were covered with old family photographs, but something about them felt wrong. Every picture showed children, yet their faces were scratched out. My stomach tightened. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. A tall man slowly walked down the staircase. "This is my husband, Daniel," the woman said. Daniel stared at me for several seconds without blinking. Then he said, "Put the kids to bed by 10. "Okay. And whatever you hear from the basement tonight?" He paused. "Ignore it." I laughed nervously. "What, like pipes or something?" Neither of them smiled. Daniel stepped closer. "I'm serious." The room fell silent. Then the woman quickly grabbed her coat. "We'll be back in the morning." And just like that, they left. The front door slammed shut behind them. The entire house became painfully quiet. A few moments later, I heard footsteps upstairs. I climbed the staircase and found the two children sitting inside their room. A little girl named Sophie and her younger brother, Lucas. They were unusually quiet, almost too quiet. "Hey guys," I smiled. "I'm Emma." Neither of them smiled back. Sophie slowly looked at me and asked, "Did Mommy tell you about the basement?" The smile faded from my face. "She just said not to go down there." Lucas immediately looked terrified. "They laugh at night," he whispered. I frowned. "Who does?" Before he could answer, Sophie grabbed his arm tightly. "Don't talk about them." A chill ran down my spine. Around 10 p.m., I finally got the kids to sleep. Rain pounded harder against the windows. I sat downstairs watching TV, trying to ignore the strange noises around the house. Floorboards creaking upstairs, soft scratching sounds inside the walls, and every now and then, it sounded like someone was whispering my name. I kept telling myself it was just an old house, but then, at exactly 11:47 p.m., the TV suddenly shut off. The lights flickered once, then everything went dark. "Seriously?" I muttered. I turned on my phone flashlight. That's when I heard it. Knock, knock, knock. The sound came from the basement door, slow, heavy, like someone was knocking from the inside. My heartbeat quickened. Then I heard a child giggle, soft, very soft. I froze. Another laugh followed, then another. Soon it sounded like multiple children laughing together beneath the floorboards. "Catch me! Don't let her leave!" My hands started shaking. A faint yellow light slowly appeared beneath the basement door. I swallowed hard. Maybe the kids are awake. But then I remembered the kids were upstairs. I rushed upstairs to check. I opened their bedroom door. Lucas was asleep, but Sophie was sitting upright in bed, staring directly at me. Her face was pale with fear. "They started calling you too," she whispered. Before I could speak, bang! The basement door downstairs flew open by itself. The entire house shook violently, and then the laughter stopped. Complete silence filled the house. My breathing became heavy. Then I heard something worse. Footsteps, slow footsteps coming up from the basement stairs. Step, step, step. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. "They're here." Suddenly, a child's voice whispered directly behind me, "Emma, come play with us." I slowly turned around, and when I saw what was standing in the hallway, I screamed. Standing in the hallway was a little girl. Her long, wet hair covered most of her face. She wore an old white dress stained with dirt and something dark that looked like dried blood. But the worst part, her eyes were completely black. No pupils, no whites, just darkness. She smiled slowly. "Come downstairs, Emma." My phone slipped from my hand and crashed onto the floor. I stumbled backward, unable to breathe. Then Sophie suddenly screamed, "Don't look at her!" The second I blinked, the girl disappeared. The hallway was empty, but downstairs, the children's laughter returned louder than before. "Emma! Come play! Stay with us!" My chest tightened with panic. I grabbed Lucas from the bed. "We're leaving right now." But Sophie grabbed my wrist tightly. Her hands were freezing cold. "It's too late," she whispered. "What do you mean?" Tears rolled down her face. "They already saw you." Then, crick! A slow, dragging sound echoed from downstairs. The lights began flickering violently. I looked toward the staircase, and my blood turned to ice. Someone was standing at the bottom of the stairs. A child, but not human. Its arms were too long. Its neck bent at an impossible angle. Its mouth stretched into a smile far too wide for its face. Crack. Its bones snapped softly as it tilted its head. "Mommy said babysitters stay forever," Lucas began screaming. I grabbed both kids and ran downstairs toward the front door, but when we reached the entrance, the door was gone. In its place was nothing but an old wooden wall. No! I started pounding against it in terror. Behind me, Sophie whispered, "The house changes when they wake up." Suddenly, thud, thud, thud. Heavy footsteps rushed across the upstairs hallway. Something was running above us. Fast, too fast. Then it came charging down the staircase. At first, I thought it was Daniel, but when it stepped into the light, I nearly fainted. Its body looked human, but its face looked stitched together. Skin hung loosely from its jaw. One eye was missing, and its neck twisted sideways with a sickening crack. Still, it smiled at me. "You listen to the basement," it whispered. The children behind it began laughing hysterically. The sound filled the entire house. I backed into the kitchen, shaking uncontrollably. Then Lucas suddenly whispered, "They came from downstairs." I looked at him. "Who?" "The real children." Sophie started crying. "This house used to be an orphanage," she said. Lightning flashed outside the windows. For a brief second, I noticed an old black and white photograph hanging near the kitchen wall. 12 children stood in front of the house, and every single face matched the things downstairs. Sophie's voice trembled. Years ago, there was a fire. They got trapped in the basement. No one saved them. A horrible realization hit me. Your parents. She nodded slowly. They feed the house. My stomach dropped. Every few months, she whispered, they bring someone here. I was never hired to babysit. I was a sacrifice. Suddenly, boom! The basement door burst fully open. Darkness poured out like smoke, and inside that darkness, dozens of tiny pale eyes appeared, watching me. Then slowly, they crawled out. Burned children, broken limbs, charred faces twisted into unnatural smiles. Their laughter no longer sounded human. It sounded hungry. The stitched-faced creature stepped toward me. Now you belong to them. It grabbed my wrist. Its hand felt like ice. Then a small voice whispered beside me, "Burn the house." I turned. The black-eyed girl stood near the stove. This time she wasn't smiling. She pointed toward the gas burners. I understood immediately. It was the only way. I turned the gas knobs on. The smell filled the kitchen instantly. The creatures realized what I was doing. Their smiles vanished. The stitched-faced thing screamed, "No!" The children rushed toward me. I shoved Sophie and Lucas toward the window. "Run!" Then I grabbed the lighter sitting beside the stove. For 1 second, everything became silent. Every creature froze, watching me. Then I lit the flame. Whoom! The explosion tore through the entire house. Fire blasted across the walls. The windows shattered. I was thrown backward through the glass and slammed into the wet grass outside. The mansion became an inferno. Inside the flames, I heard them screaming. Children, dozens of them, and mixed within those screams, I heard laughter. Then everything went black. I woke up in a hospital 2 days later. Police officers stood beside my bed. They told me the house had burned completely to the ground. But here's the strange part. No bodies were ever found. Not Daniel, not his wife, not even the children. Nothing. The police assumed everyone burned in the fire, but I knew better. 3 months later, I moved away from Pennsylvania. I tried to forget everything. Then one rainy evening, a package arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside was an old burned photograph, the orphanage photo. But this time, there was one extra person standing among the children. Me, and written on the back in shaky handwriting were the words, "Thank you for opening the basement door."